our feature presentation this week is I don't know if we will see a Stranger movie this week. So Biosphere. So right off the bat, spoiler alert, like there is so much to give away in this movie, and it's like a constant stream of things. We will not ruin anyone's watchability of this movie because there's it went in directions that I never would have imagined it would have gone in. So this movie, interesting pacing because
Yeah.
a lot of movies are like, okay, it's two main actors, but then there'll be like a flashback scene or a flash forward scene, and there'll be a couple of other actors in here. Not in Biosphere. You got Mark Duplass, you got Sterling K. Brown for whatever 116 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
That's all you're getting. There's nobody else. So their performances are so important in this. And I would say like within the first 90 seconds, like they nail that the bond that they have. Really good performances that start early and carry all the way through.
I couldn't agree more, man. Yeah, this is it was funny because when I started the movie and I saw that there's only the two credits, I
Yeah.
was kind of like, oh shit. But two incredibly good actors.
Yeah.
I really admire Sterling K. Brown and Mark Duplass for all the roles that they can like almost always flawlessly do. They're all both those actors are incredibly good all the time. And so I was pretty geeked up actually in knowing that. And yeah, you couldn't have said it better. They have a on-screen chemistry that is I really hope that they're actual friends because they sure seemed like friends. That
Yeah.
was such a believable friendship, and it jumped off the screen.
It's very natural. And that's a word that I'll try not to overuse for this movie because
Sure.
everything is very natural in this movie. Now, the circumstances are very unnatural. They're the last two people on Earth, and their food supply is dwindling. And then from there, they got to figure out what's happening and what they're going to do to stay alive. So that's kind of the premise of Biosphere. But everything happens organically, and like nothing is spoon fed to the. And a lot of times, because there's so much like science babble in this, that you have to like kind of hold the audience by the hand and let them know what's going on. There's not too much of this in it, too much of that. I don't know if there's any at all, really. Like things are happening, and some of it is ridiculous and over the top, but it's just kind of they're just talking their way through it. The movie's just unfolding in front of you, and it's not a real time thing. It happens over the course of an undisclosed amount of time, but it takes a while.
Yeah.
And but it's all just flowing. It's a very free flowing movie, which isn't always a good idea because that means there's a lack of structure. But conversely, this is a very structured movie.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. And it kind of does well, it was very reminiscent of like reading a good story, like in not in like it's like got chapters to it, but without
Right.
having chapter one, chapter two. Like there's definitely movements throughout the movie that change tone and uh emphasis on what you should be paying attention to. And yeah, I thought it was pacing was great. I thought it really allowed you to like to get to know these two in a way where it's hard, I think, to have characters where you're trying to make them likable but also show that they're flawed and show that they can be selfish and all these things, but still try to keep that likability, and I don't know if it was the direction, the writing, acting, or a combination, that all three of those things. But no matter what was transpiring at the time, I was really engaged and I was really caring for both of them. Both of their feelings were important to me, which is that's saying something. That's hard to do. Usually it's one way or the other. You kind of grasp onto one. No, you care about both these two equally.
And the way it's done in this movie is really risky. So you have two strong chances are you have two really strong actors going into this, and so that the performances are going to carry its own weight. But this movie, like we've talked about talkies and dewies, like there's
Yeah.
no action at all
No.
whatsoever. So you're absolutely relying on the story to carry to keep the audience engaged, and it does it in the there's no chapters like, I know literal chapters in this, but there's like three like important movies or moments
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
movie that happen that kind of signify breaks in the act, the three act structure. And man, each thing that happens, it caught me off guard because it's a weird movie. It's funny. It's supposed to be funny, but it's funny to me that it's like this weird mix of like it's very serious, like it's very topical issues of like
Oh,
sexuality and gender and identity, but then it's mixed with this like wacky 80s stuff, like 80s like like stuff you'd see in like some weird movie sitcoms even from the 80s, like they're both
yeah.
inhabiting the same space. And that's just not something you see or something you really want to see or do. But this, I mean, they managed to flow between these two tones throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I thought, yeah, they did that like the Odd Couple kind of vibe, but it's
Yeah.
like you get it's like you've the Odd Couple's been living together and they've already hashed out all their Odd Couple bullshit, and they're just kind of existing at this point. And so you kind of come into their Odd Couple nature in a really odd time in their lives where it's all very accepting. They kind of have their routines and the yeah, like you said, the moments come from those routine breaks. The routines are getting shaken up, and as for a couple people locked inside, something smaller than high school, much smaller than like a high school basketball gym. It's a very small thing, and you start to think about like how that would be playing at these guys' psyches, and just in general. I think they just did a really interesting job of making those two characters just really different, very wildly different, and but incredibly likable, and you're rooting for both of them for different reasons. It was really really interesting.
It was, and I'll say for this movie, one of the it's a weird thing because some of the things that they deal with, like back in 1984, it would have been really
Oh
uncomfortable
my
and funny.
god.
Uh, there's a scene in this, and I'm gonna say it's probably the most powerful for me. It was the most impacting scene we've ever that I've experienced this year, where um, Ray, which is Sterling K. Brown's character, and Billy, they have a confrontation where Billy is kind of coming at Ray,
Yeah.
and then Ray's trying to back him up, and then finally Ray
Lashes
friends him,
out. Yeah.
and he stops himself. And that whole scene was like super impactful and effect, and it was really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily because of it, but a little bit of it was that because I don't know, they were so close on a level as friends, and they had been through so much together, and then to see that happen seemed like unnatural. Doesn't it is That's not the right word, but it was like almost like they were, I don't know. I don't know what it is about that scene, but it made me very uncomfortable. Like,
Mm.
and worse, I guess they go further with it. But those scenes were played for laughs.
Yeah.
But that scene was like, it really like hit home for me. I
Oh.
thought it was really well acted. It was really cool. I loved Sterling K. Brown's reaction, and I
Oh.
liked the aftermath where they're discussing it. Just super, super well written and really, really powerful.
Oh, it's one of the best scenes of the year uh that we've watched on this peer program. Absolutely. What a moment. And like it's funny, like there's sometimes when we're watching stuff and like it's like almost when scenes are so goddamn good that you're like, whoa, it's so good it like pulled me out of it to where I was thinking like, man, what was that set like after that scene? There had to have been like palpable like tension in the air, like when you walk into a room that people have just been arguing in, like
Right.
it was so thick. There was like that was such a intense moment, and yeah, it really really quite something. An incredible performance by Sterling K. Brown in that scene in particular, and then not to Mark Duplass has got some moments too in this
Yeah.
that that I think he's underrated in his ability to kind of be like a wounded puppy dog in the corner, like where
Right,
he's got this like innate ability to be like, you just feel he's sympathetic, you feel sympathy for him. And multiple times during this movie, and it's all it is a look on his face. He's there, most of those scenes are he's not even saying anything, but
yeah.
it's his body language, and that's really good too. That's hard to do. That's good acting.
And I'll say this about both the leads in this, and it's kind of a weird thing because I hear their names all the time, and I always hear them spoken of highly. But Sterling K. Brown and Mark Duplass, I gotta say that they're probably two of the most underrated actors out there.
Probably.
I don't think you hear enough about them, and this is a showcase for them, and they really knocked it out of the park. And the themes that are tackled in here are so funny because there's that scene which is like you said, like yeah, now I wonder too, like what was it like after that happened, but it's sandwiched in between two like ridiculous scenes that are just like they're silly, like they
Yeah.
it's almost like if you were to tell people like, okay, this happens and then this happens and this happens, it'd be like what the fuck are they? I mean, that makes
Yeah.
no sense that you would do all of this in the space of 20 minutes or whatever. But I mean, credit to the writing. Very, very strong writing.
Really great writing. It's one of those, well, and like you said, the themes caught up in this, or it's all at the top of the fucking board these days on the internet and newspapers and
Yeah.
beer chat rooms and everything. And it approaches it in a way that I think and I say this, man, because I just know our world is really intolerant. It puts it in a framing that I think might open some people's eyes. I think it does it and it's a science fiction movie, really,
It is.
but it approaches a few topics that I thought was just kind of just like, wow, what a really clever, thought-provoking way to do things. And yeah, I hope I hope those moments and those themes in this movie um are not outshined by anything, because it's this movie, out of all the stuff we've seen that has tried to send a message and let's beat you over the fucking head with stuff, like this did it with subtlety and tact, and it made it more impactful.